Hey guys, it's Miss Caps here. Today we're working on multiplying with fractions, and we're working on multiplying a whole number times a fraction. So I'm going to share with you a strategy for doing that. So you see that my problem is 3 times 1/4. So for this strategy, we take this whole number 3 and we create that many groups. So I have 1, 2, 3 groups of fourths because my denominator is 4. So then once I have my 3 groups created, I'm going to form the fraction 1/4 3 times. So I'm going to do that now. So here I have 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. So I take my whole number, I create that many groups, and I form that fraction, which in this case is 1/4, 3 times. So I just make the fraction 3 times. And then you'll see on the other side I have the same fourths. So the same fraction over there, fraction model to record my answer in. And now I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to use my tool here so that I can keep up with where I'm at. So I'm going to take this 1/4. Okay, I'm going to check that off so I know I've used it. And I'm going to just move it over here. Okay, so now it's over there in on my answer side. Then I'm going to take this 1/4, and I'm also going to move it over here to my answer side. Okay, so I've moved it, and then I'm going to take my last 1/4, and I'm going to move it over here to my answer side. And you can see now I have a total of 1, 2, 3 fourths. So that is my answer. 3 times 1/4 is 3 fourths. So for the next problem, I thought I would walk you guys through how to use this site. I discovered it and I think it's pretty great and it's kind of fun to navigate. If you don't have access to this site though, that's okay. You can definitely use piece of paper, pencil, marker, whatever you do have. But I'll walk you through how to use this site in case you do want to use it. So the first thing I would recommend doing is typing your problem in, and to do that, for this problem, I'm going to use 5 times 1/6. So I just clicked on the little calculator keys at the bottom, and that allows me to open this up, and I'm going to type in 5 times 1/6. Going to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm just going to move that over, tell it I'm done, and there's the problem. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide my screen so that I can create some groups for my work and then some groups for my answers. And to divide my screen, you'll need to click on the little pen tool at the bottom. And then the pen needs to face down, and the pen's the first tool that you see. It does need to be facing down to right. So I'm going to go ahead and just divide my screen here. Oh, and now it's not facing down. There it goes. And then I'm just going to put an A on this side so that we know that is my answer side. Now we discussed how when we were multiplying a whole number times a fraction, you need to create whatever your whole number is. In this case, it's 5. I'm going to underline that 5. I need to create 5 groups of 1/6. So then to get that 1/6, I'll show you what tool to use for that. Now it's very important when using this particular platform, this site, when you're not using your writing tool, you have to keep it slanted so it knows that you want another tool. So you just have to click on it and keep it kind of slanted there. So now that my writing tool is slanted, I'm going to click on my rectangle at the bottom. And notice that it says how many parts. Well, my denominator in my fraction in this case is 6, so I need my fractions to have 6 parts. So there we go. Now it's created a fraction bar that's split into 6. So I'm going to move it over. I'm going to make it a little bit longer so we can see it a little bit better. But then once I have it looking how I want it, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now at this time, you need to go ahead and duplicate it. Go ahead and copy it. So to do that, you're going to press on the 2 little rectangles at the bottom. They look like they're kind of right next to each other. One's overlapping a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and create my 5 groups. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'll make sure I have 5 over here. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and create some for the answer side as well. So there's 1 for the answer side. For now, I'm going to create 2. I may not use them both, but just it's easier to go ahead and create those. So now I know that I need to create the fraction 1/6 5 times, and I'm going to double check and make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups on my work problem side. So now I'm going to pick a color. I'll use purple, and I'm going to create 1/6 5 times. So here's 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, and 1/6. So now I've created 1/6 5 times, and I'm ready to move over to my answer side. So I'm going to use my writing tool to help me check and make sure that I have used all of my fractions from my problem side. So now I'm going to take and check that I'm using this first fraction piece here, this first fraction unit. So I'm going to bring that over to my answer side. And then I'm going to grab the second one. I'm going to check it so I know I've used it and bring it over to my answer side. Okay, I'm going to do that with the rest here. So check this one. I know I've used it. Move it over. Check this one. I know I've used it. Move it over. Check this one. I know I've used it. And moved it over. So now I don't have any more left to move over. And now I can figure out what my answer is. So if I count here, I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 times 1/6 equals 5, because I had 5 up there, 5/6. Didn't have to do anything with that second bar. I went ahead and moved it over because for our next problem we will use more than one bar, but for this one I just needed the single one. So 5 times 1/6 is 5/6. Okay guys, the next problem that we're going to do is 4 times 3/4. 4 times 3/4. So I've created my problem here. I'm going to move it over. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and divide this screen so that I have a work side and an answer side here. Okay, and I'm going to now go ahead and create those 4 groups. My whole number is 4, so I need 4 groups of fourths. So it's asking how many parts I need for that. My denominator is 4, so I'm going to tell it 4. I'm going to move it over here, make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. I just click and drag it over, and then I'm going to duplicate it. So there's 4 groups of fourths. Now, if you're drawing this out, or even if you're working on here, feel free to pause at any point and then continue. I'm going to go ahead and move some over for my answer side as well. So Going to click it again and duplicate it. So I'm not exactly sure how many I'm going to need just yet. So I'm going to put 3 over here. Like I said, it's before it's easier to go ahead and get those set up. So now I'm ready to start. So this time I'm multiplying 4 times 3/4, which means that I need to fill in 3/4 of every bar. Okay, so now I've created those 4 groups of 3/4. So when I come over here to get my answer, make sure that your answer side, especially if you're drawing this out and not just copying and pasting on this site, that your answer has the same number of, it's in the same fraction. So your answer side should have fourths as well. So you should have groups of fourths created on your answer side as well. I'm going to go ahead now. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. I'm going to click out of there, but I am going to duplicate this a few more times just in case we need them. If we don't, that's okay. And as you're getting started with this and you're not sure how many groups you're going to need, then you may want to go ahead and just set up a couple extra groups. I would definitely recommend that. So now I'm ready to move the 3/4 over, just like we were moving fractions over before. I'm going to check off when I move them over, and I'm going to start putting them in the bars on the answer side. So I'm going to get my color here, and I'm going to move over those first 3. So 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go back and check those off. 1, 2, 3. I moved them over. Okay, here's where it's going to get a little bit tricky, because I have on my second bar here, here's my second bar on this side, I have 3 more left to move over, but I still have 1 space on my first fraction bar on the answer side. So I do need to use that space. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in, and then that becomes the space for that first fraction unit of the second bar. And then as you move down and fill in, make sure you're going back to check. This is where this can get a little bit confusing. You'll notice for my answer side bar here, I've got 2 spaces left. I do need to fill those 2 spaces in. So then for my third row on this side, I'm going to come over here and check that I'm moving these over, but I do need to put them in order. I'm not leaving any blanks on my answer side, okay? I'm filling all of those in. So then, going to check my last 3 here, and they're going to go in those 3 spaces, okay? So you're not leaving any blanks on your answer side. You are going to fill those in. And then I'm going to come back over here. I did not use those last 2 bars. So I was going to see, I'm still learning this site myself, if there is a way, didn't need that, to delete, there we go, now it's letting me, to delete those. So now I can figure out my answer. So, going to copy my problem on this side, 4 times 3/4, and you'll see that you have created 4/4, 4/4, and 4/4. Okay, you've created 4/4 3 times. You'll notice that the whole thing for all of those bars is filled in. So essentially here you have one whole, and one whole. Well, if you have one whole 3 times, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So 4 times 3/4 is 3. Okay, guys, so we're going to do one last problem here. And the problem is 5 times 2/6. 5 times 2/6. Make sure you're working this out with me, either on this side or on a piece of paper with a marker or colored pencil or something, whatever you have. And like I said before, if you need to press pause and stop to get caught up, feel free to do that. But please make sure that you are trying these with me. So I'm going to move this over. Go ahead and divide my screen here so that I have a work side and an answer side. Put an A up here so I know that's my answer side. So this time I have 5 as my whole number, and I am creating 5 groups of 2/6. So then when I go to create my fraction bar, I need it to have 6 equal parts. My denominator is 6. So I'm going to make that a little bit larger so we can see it. And then at this point, this is where I need to go ahead and duplicate. If you're drawing, make sure that you're drawing 5 fraction bars divided into 6 equal parts. So going to get my 5 bars for my work side here. And then I'm going to go ahead and make some for my answer side. I don't know how many I'll need just yet. So I'm just going to create some groups over here. Okay. So I need to create the fraction 2/6 5 times. So this time I'll use green and go ahead and fill in 2/6 5 times. And now I'm ready to move those over to my answer side. Now, just like I mentioned before, for your answer side, you do need to be filling all of the unit fractions in, all of the pieces. You don't want to use any of those. You don't want to leave any of those blank. So I'm going to go ahead now and fill in those first 2 and then check over here that I filled those in. Okay, I use those 2. Then I'm going to come back, fill in my next 2, not leaving any blank. Check that I use those. Okay. Then I'm going to fill in my next 2 and check that I use those. Okay. So I'm not leaving any blank on my answer side. Moving right along. Going to now fill in my next 2 down here. I'm going to check that I've used those. Okay, and then I have 2 more to fill in. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then check that I use those last 2. Checking those off is the easiest way that I know to keep up with what I've used, especially as you get into some larger numbers. I did not need the final 2 bars down here, so I am going to delete those out. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and bring my fraction over. I'm going to write it on my answer side. So 5 times 2/6. And we can see that I've created one whole because here I have 6 out of 6. 6 out of 6 is equal to 1 whole. So I have a 1. And then from that bottom bar, I've filled in 4/6. So my answer is 1 4/6. So 5 times 2/6 is equal to 1 4/6. Guys, I hope that this site helps, and I hope that this lesson helps. If you need to refer back to it as you're doing any practice work assigned to your teacher, feel free to do that. Or if you have any questions, just let me or your teachers know. We'll be glad to help. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I hope that you enjoyed the lesson.